So this is what it's like doing an artist ID. Hey, this is Harry Lag, and you're listening to my new hit single. No, it's just a voiceover guy, Harry Lag, in New York City. Actually, the Jersey suburbs. You're listening to the Voiceover Marketing Podcast.
Thank you, Harry. Harry Leg, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Hey, this is John. Thanks for listening and spending some time with me today. I do appreciate it. So, a few things to talk to you today. We're going to talk about how to handle and overcome criticism, also claiming what you want rather than waiting for approval. Before we do that, I want to just tell you that we are sponsored by the book Voice Over Legal by Rob Seglin-Paglia. You don't think you need this book? Here's a question for you. Have you ever been asked to do a celebrity impression for a commercial? If you have, you might want to think twice, unless you live in a particular state. You can find out why impersonations can be a problem and why you could get sued if you do one, and which state is exempt from all of that on page 28 of the Voice Over Legal book. Now, we've arranged a discount for you to save up to $5. That's up to 20% off the list price of the book, and you can support the podcast at the same time. If you're a voice artist and you're treating your business as a business, you need this book. Just go to voiceoverlegal.com. When you go to voiceoverlegal.com, enter the promo code VMP at checkout to save $5 off the cost of the book. That's promo code V as in voice, M as in marketing, and P as in podcast at checkout to save $5 off the cost of the book, and you'll support the podcast at the same time. Thanks. We have had, as of this recording, 53,853 downloads of the various odd and sundry episodes of the Voiceover Marketing Podcast. Thank you. You know, this podcast is a two-way street, and it wouldn't exist without you. If I didn't have people listening to the podcast and asking for more, there would be no need to continue. And your messages of encouragement and appreciation for the content and the guests that we have on this podcast mean so much. The number of downloads just continues to increase. And I also want to thank everyone who ordered the Personal Story Deluxe package. You've heard me talk about it. You know, you can get a free copy of my Personal Story marketing piece. It's a marketing piece that I've put together that I give out to new clients and prospective clients. And you can get a free copy of that. There's a link to be able to do that on the show notes for this episode number 49. Go to voiceovermarketingpodcast.com. Episode 49, and you can still get a free copy of that. But I've also put together a package with an audio presentation that I did for my mastermind group a few years ago, a color-coded version of that package, and the color-coded key to decipher what all the different paragraphs are in that and how it was structured and the strategy behind the different elements that were included. When you add up all the value of all those things, it's $278.95. I'm offering it to podcast listeners only for $17.95. And there's a link to that on the show notes page as well. So if you're interested, snap that up. And thank you to everyone who has ordered one. I'm very grateful. So this is episode number 49, which means the next episode is episode 50. And that's kind of a milestone. So we're going to do something special for that episode. I think my bride, the lovely Anne, will be interviewing me. You'll get to meet her, and she's going to turn the tables on me and ask me the questions. So that should be interesting. So stay tuned for next week's episode 50. Should be good. So I'm here in the studio today, and I'm sipping my smoothie. This morning I was enjoying my garden, and I should tell you, I am, based on the episode that I did a few weeks ago on researching your clients, I told you one of the things I was going to do was to sign up for Instagram. And so I have. And I was going to Instagram, and I was setting up my account, and I typed in, it says, okay, pick a username. And so I typed in Jmelley, Jmelley. And it says, I'm sorry, that's already been used. And I'm thinking, already been used? Nobody's ever beaten me to the punch on one of these things. So I'm saying, did I already sign up for this thing? Did I and just not do anything with it? Come on, we've all done stuff like that. You know, you get a free download and you never read it or whatever. You know, or we sign up for something and you go, oh, yeah, what was the password I did for that thing? So I'm thinking, did I do that? No, I've never been to Instagram before. So after I had set up my account, so I should tell you that I'm on Instagram now, and you can follow me on Instagram, reach out, connect with me, and I'll connect back. It's jmelley and then the digit 1, JMELLEY number 1. jmelley1 on Instagram. So please connect with me there. If you are on Instagram, you get some behind-the-scenes pictures of what's going on in my world outside the studio, not just what's going on in the studio. A few of those, but more about pictures of my garden and my honeybees and them flying around the hive and all that kind of good stuff. So I decided once I signed up for Instagram, I would find out who this jmelley was. That kind of stole my thunder, if you will. And turns out it's my cousin's daughter. She was on Instagram before I was. I just thought that was kind of funny. I'm thinking, who could this be? And of course, I am not the only John Malley in the United States, probably not in the world. But in terms of social media and websites and stuff like that, I've been kind of ahead of the curve for people with my name. There's one guy down in Florida who keeps getting arrested. And here's actually a tip for you. If you haven't done this, you may want to do this for yourself. Set up a Google alert with your name in it. And if you don't know what a Google alert is, just go to google.com, your Google account, and you can set up a Google alert for any term that you want. And it's a good idea to set up one with your name in it so that when something gets posted about you, then you can be on top of it. You can monitor it. And so I was getting these Google alerts about this being arrested. I'm thinking, I haven't been arrested. And there's this guy, sorry, John, you're down in Florida. If you're listening to this, I'm sorry, but it is public record. He's been busted for all kinds of stuff. And I'm thinking, oh, this isn't good. And then there was another guy who was doing loan scams, some furniture loan scam. And I'm thinking, gosh, this is good to know because somebody with your name could be doing kind of scummy stuff. And you want to be on top of it. So here's a real tip for you. Go to google.com and set up a Google alert with your name in it, and you can monitor what's going on out there about yourself. Anywho, so like I said, I'm in the studio today. I don't want summer to end, but I do like the month of September, and I've been out enjoying my garden in the morning. But just want to share with you some thoughts today, aside from the Google alert thing. I heard an interesting comment on the way to work today. And this podcast, I had these thoughts about overcoming criticism, handling objections, and claiming authority. Those two things kind of tie in together. But I heard something interesting on the way in to work today. I was listening to a CD. It was an interview program. And it was these two gentlemen talking about wealth, money, running a business, and this gentleman who coaches people, I don't even remember his name, and I'm sorry, but he coaches business owners on how and when to sell their business and then what to do once they've sold their business. One observation he made was he said that your biggest strength is your biggest weakness. And I thought, what would that be? And how could it be a weakness? And I really make an effort to learn from other businesses. And Dan Kennedy taught me this a long time ago. He said, your business is not different from someone else's. All businesses are the same. And the mindset behind that is to have an openness of looking at someone else's business and seeing how you can apply it to your own. And so I thought to myself, what would my biggest strength be? And how could it be my biggest weakness? And so if I think about my business, what is my biggest strength? Well, my biggest strength, I think you would say, would be my voice and what I can do with it. So if that's the biggest strength, how could it be the biggest weakness to my business? And it didn't take long for me to come up with it. What if I lost my voice? What if I got sick? What if I had an injury and wasn't able to talk for a period of time, or possibly have my voice permanently damaged? God forbid. But if it's your biggest strength, it can be your biggest weakness. With that in mind, and kind of going back to the general theme of this podcast, how can you leverage your talents to create other income opportunities? You want to be creating assets. You don't want to just be relying on your voiceover business for your sole source of revenue. You don't want just one source of revenue. You want to be able to create things that leverage your talents. And I'm imploring you, please create assets for your business that will continue to generate income for you. It takes work, but that's what this podcast is all about, showing you how to do that. This will be self-serving, but just look at what I've done with this podcast. I talked about the Personal Story Deluxe marketing package that's available. I recorded that presentation for my mastermind group a couple of years ago, and that's an exclusive presentation that I've had for that group, and it's never been available up until now. And what I've done is I have leveraged that content. People paid to join that mastermind group, and now I'm taking that content and I'm making it available. Now, it's at a tremendous discount because they had the benefit of the interaction of the mastermind group, the ability for Q&A and all of that. But I've also taken the story that I have given away. I am being totally transparent with you. And now I have created an asset from that. And I am now peeling back the curtain and showing you all the different elements in it, and then providing a key that explains all of those things. And I've taken those elements and I've put them together, and I'm now making it available. And so that asset is now in place. Do you see the power in that? I'm not saying this to, some people will react to that with, he's just making a bunch of money off of this. And some people will be saying, hey, that's pretty cool. How can I do that? And I'm telling you how. And I'm telling you that you need to be doing this. And I'm being completely transparent. I hope, what's the word I'm looking for? I hope you take it in the spirit that it's intended. That's what I'm trying to phrase. I'm not trying to toot my own horn here. I'm really not trying to sell here. I've already done that, and it's on the show notes, and if you want to buy it, great. But what I'm doing is I'm telling you that you can do this too. And that leads me into the next thing that I wanted to talk to you about is claiming authority and overcoming criticisms and objections. And if you've got to take that strength that you have, whatever it is, I've outlined it for you right now. My biggest strengths professionally are voicing, and I'm pretty darn good at editing. It's like a language for me. I can look at an audio file and I can read it like it's words. I can find the consonants. I can see the syllables. I can see the vowels. I see breaths. I see laughing. I can read it like it's English. Those are my strengths. What would happen if those went away? That's your biggest weakness, because if those strengths go, what are you left with? All the other stuff. I'm imploring you, leverage your strengths now while you have them. Hopefully you always will, but don't take it for granted. That's one thing I've learned this year is really don't take stuff for granted and be appreciative of what you have while you have it. So, and if you've listened to this podcast at all this year, you'll understand why. At any rate, so what I want you to do is to claim the authority. Say, you know what? I'm good at this. And then create from it. Rodney Salisbury, last week's episode, we were talking about how brands are created and how he was creating brands and how he has different brands. If you listen carefully, I said, are you the voice of choice? And he said, well, that's one of my brands. And that was very interesting language because, obviously that implies that he has a different brand for different audiences. And one of the examples he gave was Michael Jackson and how he claimed or created the brand and stated that he was the king of pop and that he was motivated by watching Elvis Presley, who he was a big fan of. And he always admired Elvis Presley, claiming that he was the king of rock and roll. And Howard Stern has declared himself the king of all media. People have declared themselves this. Michael Jackson, there was this other thing going on. And if you recall this part of the conversation with Rodney last week, he said, he was being called Wacko Jacko because of all the wacky stuff that he used to do. To counter that, he claimed he was the king of pop. So a lot of this episode kind of follows up on what Rodney was talking about, how he's monitoring his brand. Kind of ties in with my recommendation for you to go and set up a Google alert for yourself. Monitor yourself. Monitor what's going on out there. Be in control of that. That's you. That's your business. You want to be aware of what's out there. Then from that perspective, you can decide whether or not you want to give a darn about what they're saying. I mean, think about it. If you can decide whether or not the criticism is worth a response or it's worth listening to. Constructive criticism is always helpful. Someone has your best interests at heart and says, you could do this better, or you might want to try it this way, or I understand what you're trying to do, but you might want to think about how you're saying that. I've had people say that to me. Yeah, it kind of stings at times, but then at the same time, if you understand that their intention comes from a good place and that they have your best interests, then you owe it to yourself to kind of just accept it, get over it, and know what that means. If someone criticizes you or offers comments and suggestions with the intention of helping you, that's really a compliment because they care about you. So that's one form of criticism. The other kind of criticism, and it's so easy to do this now, and I jokingly refer to social media as anti-social media at times because it's so easy for people to hide behind a keyboard and lob criticism and tear down people. I mean, you see it all over the place. That kind of stuff, you got to blow it off. I mean, it doesn't help you. If people are lying about you, that's a different ballgame. But think about criticism and think about people who are successful. So without getting into who we're going to vote for or anything like that, do you really think, let's look at these people objectively for a moment. Do you really think Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump care about a lot of the criticism that's lobbed their way? No, they don't. I mean, to some degree they do in the sense that they want to garner enough votes to become the next president of the United States. But look at the people who've really accomplished quite a bit in their lives. Say what you will about either of those two candidates. You can argue for both of them that they have done very well. And here's the other thing that they've done. This is how it ties into claiming what you want. I've talked about this before. Both of these people think they are worthy of becoming the next president of the United States. Both of them have life experiences. Both of them have extensive resumes, very different resumes, and people will argue about who's more qualified to become president and who's not qualified, and both of them have arguments for and against and all that kind of stuff. Set all that aside, but they're both running on their backgrounds, and there are a lot of detractors for both of them. They're not holding themselves back from doing what they want to do because they're concerned about what others will think about them. They're not concerned about the criticisms leveled at them. It's not preventing them for running for president. And they've decided, you know what? I could be president. I should be president. I'm going to run for president. Now, they may have had people say, you know what? You should run for president. I'm sure people put bugs in their ears, but they had the thought in their own minds as well. Think about it. I should be the next president of the United States. That's thinking big. And you've got to be of a certain mindset to be willing to put up with everything that you've got to put up with to get there. It's the world's longest job interview running for president when you think about it. It's so intrusive. Everybody's picking through everything you've said, every look. I mean, cameras are everywhere. Recorders are everywhere now. Every move is documented. All your writings are scrutinized for past thoughts. I mean, think about it. And despite all of it and all the stuff that's out there and being said about both of them, they're going, I'm going to run for president. And they're not letting it hold them back. I guess that's the point I want to make. And if you look at most successful people, they all have detractors. People don't like Howard Stern, but he's declared himself the king of all media. He was paid $500 million to go to satellite radio and create his own network. There are a lot of people out there who don't like Howard Stern, but he got paid $500 million. That's pretty good. Rush Limbaugh, other side of the coin from Howard Stern. Huge name in radio. Very, very successful. Not a perfect person. None of these people are. And no one is a perfect person. You know, we've all made mistakes. We've all stumbled. And you never know where the criticism is going to come from or what someone's going to criticize you for. And if you hold yourself back and not wanting to be criticized, you're not going to say anything. You're not going to accomplish anything. So I'll tell you, some years ago, actually 5 years ago, a little over 5 years ago, I was publishing a monthly newsletter, and it was June of 2011, and I went back into my archives and I pulled this out, and the headline that I put on there was, "Surprise, I think you're a fat and ignorant warmonger on autopilot." And that comment was directed at me. Somebody sent me an email saying, "I think you're a fat and ignorant warmonger on autopilot." He called me a sheep and followed the crowd. So the context of this was I had sent out an email to my list wishing everyone a happy Memorial Day. I sent an email out saying Happy Memorial Day and asked everyone to remember our veterans and their families because they, and a lot of people sent me messages thanking me for remembering because a lot of them have family or friends serving in Iraq and Afghanistan and elsewhere around the world. And, in the United States, that's where I live. If you're in another part of the world, I'm an American, and I'm a proud American. I got all kinds of great emails for that. But then I got this one email from somebody who was just all over my case for sending out that email, wishing people a happy Memorial Day weekend. Like I said, he called me a fat, ignorant warmonger on autopilot. He was ranting about how terrible we all were for thanking our veterans, and then he signed off by saying, "Happy M-Day, Murder Day to you too." M for Memorial Day was Murder Day. And I was just dumbfounded. And I recall a friend of mine and a marketing partner of mine, Bill Glazer, he expressed it well. He said, all successful people get criticized about what they do and positions they take. Part of what makes them successful is their willingness to do and say things others are afraid to. When you get criticized for something, you need to see if the people giving it have a legitimate reason and if they have the background to offer the opinion. If they do, then listen and learn. If they don't have the qualifications to offer their opinion and it's just jealousy or anger, then you almost have to wear it like a badge that you've arrived. And I think that was a great quote from Bill Glazer. It's like, you're going to get criticized. Okay, great. Is it valid? Learn. If it isn't valid, ditch it. Whatever. So I'm offering that up for you to go out there and create. You're not going to please everybody, and that's okay. You can still be very, very successful by not pleasing everyone. Going back to the king of pop, Michael Jackson, king of pop versus Wacko Jacko, Michael Jackson. Nobody gave him the diploma. Nobody gave him a certificate that said, you are the king of pop. No, he created that for himself. And you can create that for yourself. And that's really what I want to encourage you to do is just, Rodney said it great at the end of last week's episode. You've got something inside you that you want to share. Don't let fear of criticism, jealousy, what other people are going to think, keep you from doing that. He said, we're waiting for what you have. share it. Because if you've got stuff out there, nobody's going to know about it unless you share it. So I guess that's really what I want to say today. Go out there, do your thing, have fun, create, leverage your talents, and tune in next week. Episode 50. My lovely bride, Ann, will be interviewing me, and I think that's going to be a cool episode. So thanks again for listening, and I'll talk to you next week. Take care.
Our program originates in the Boston studios. We hope you'll join us again. Until then, we bid you au revoir, keep your chin up, and the best of luck.
Well, that's it for this episode of the VoiceOver Marketing Podcast. If you like this podcast, please subscribe to it at voiceovermarketingpodcast.com so you'll get notices of new episodes, and please share it with your friends and colleagues in the voiceover world. Also, it would be a huge help if you'd like this podcast and rate it on iTunes to help keep it near the top of the list. Feel free to share your comments and questions about this episode and future topics you'd like discussed at voiceovermarketingpodcast.com. And if you'd like more information on one-on-one coaching where we focus on growing your business, feel free to drop me a line at my cyber assistant's email address at mike@johnmelly.com. Thanks for listening. Now go out there and share your voice with the world.